Hi everyone, I'm Hank Davis.
I'm Saïd Azoury.
And we are from the DIEP End podcast. We're here at Pennsylvania Hospital in the first surgical amphitheater in America, and we're about to go interview Kevin Mahoney, the CEO of the University of Pennsylvania Health Systems down in the First Medical Library.
Yep, and it's a really exciting time actually, because not only are we getting ready to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation, but this is 275-year anniversary of Pennsylvania Hospital coming up. So really exciting time to be interviewing the CEO.
Yep, let's go down and interview him.
Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of the DIEP End podcast. My name is Saïd Azoury.
I'm Hank Davis. That's Ben Franklin.
And we're joined by Kevin Mahoney, who we'll introduce in just a moment. But what makes this episode incredibly special is the fact that we will soon be celebrating our nation's 250th anniversary. But even more special than that, we are at Pennsylvania Hospital in the nation's first medical library, where the first surgical amphitheater is just above us. It's undergoing construction. But how incredible is that? And that was 275 years ago. And so just this morning, Hank and I had a podcast with a medical historian and kind of talking through time about the advances over the past 2 centuries, essentially, just to think about how far we've come. And it's just such an incredibly exciting place to be. As sort of a background to our listeners, the DIEP End podcast was sort of rooted in plastic surgery. But then we since expanded. We just have enjoyed all the conversations that we've had with thought leaders to expand beyond plastic surgery, to interview just leaders in medicine, surgery, but also within institutions just like yourself. So that brings me to introducing Kevin Mahoney, who is the CEO of the University of Pennsylvania Health System, the clinical enterprise of Penn Medicine. And throughout his career, he has helped lead Penn Medicine through scientific breakthroughs, expansions in care delivery, and an era of innovations. We're going to talk about, navigating the COVID-19, which was incredibly challenging, but we will definitely hit on very exciting innovations, CAR T therapy, and of course, the Nobel Prize sort of backstory. So long story short, I've looked up to you personally. I know Hank and I have talked about this, about just your leadership style that's really grounded in humility, humanity. And so we're just incredibly grateful to have you here today. So thank you so much.
No, I appreciate being here. And as you mentioned, being at Pennsylvania Hospital is always a treat. It is a remarkable part of our nation's history. And so much of what makes Penn Medicine started here in 1765. So it's really, it just, I can't tell you how, if you're down in the dumps, coming down here and remember, I think we're having a bad day. Imagine trying to do medicine 275 years ago.
And I've heard you say before that, the University of Pennsylvania, was built on the ideal of the creation of knowledge, but also disseminating it. And what other way to experience that or to palpate that than being in the first medical library?
Yeah,
it's incredible.
100%. And as you also mentioned, we're not stagnant. But Ben Franklin, Benjamin Rush, their DNA is in the culture of Pennsylvania Hospital. Mm-hmm. In leadership, everyone says, got to change the culture, and you can't change culture. You can realign it, you can move it in a different direction, but our history started here, so it's just great to be here today.
And speaking of culture, that's what makes, your role so integral to the success of Penn Medicine. But we like to start kind of back on your journey, what, brought you to where you are today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure.
Yeah.
I will give you the truncated version. My wife and kids will tell you I tell stories that are way too long and repetitive, but let me run through it. I didn't grow up far from here, out near Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Come from a very large Irish Catholic family that had a built-in wonderfulness to it, which was I always had friends. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to play baseball, I called Sean, Regan, Brian, just go out, and there were always people around. It was great. The other thing, though, about growing up in that family is both parents alcoholics, brothers and sisters afflicted. So the Irish trait and Irish history runs deep in me and in the family. I love poetry. I love to read and think through different things. And I think that's, from my grandparents, and it's been wonderful. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into my career. Graduated from Conestoga High School, and I said, I guess I'll give college a try. So I went to the closest state college. That's what we could afford, to Valley Forge, which was Millersville. And off I went, and I had a great time.
Was that the military institute?
Pardon?
That wasn't the Valley Forge Military Institute.
No, Millersville State College in Lancaster.
Okay, gotcha.
But one of the great things about college was it was a lot like my large Irish Catholic family. I could always find someone to throw a baseball, throw a lacrosse ball. One thing you'll never have heard me say was, anybody want to go study? So when I finished up my first year, I had a 1.98 grade point average. And I got a letter, student affairs, saying, you might want to reconsider whether college is a good plan for you. And that summer, 3 things that were going to happen to me that put me on the path to becoming the CEO at the health system. The first was in late July, I was working for a landscaper, and I ran into Bill Rouse. Mr. Rouse is famous in Philadelphia because he was the first person that built taller than City Hall. And I remember reading in the paper, like, this was a huge controversy. You can't build taller than the William Penn statue. And he said, zoning, regulation, rule, like, why can't I? And the answer was always, we just don't do that in Philadelphia. He said, poppycock, I'm building. I met him out in Great Valley, and the landscaper dropped me off with my tractor. Meet Bill Rouse and he'll tell you what to do. Mr. Rouse said, I want you to cut this cornfield. It's July, and it was all growing. And I said, why would I cut this? And he said, because next week I'm having an open house. I need to put my tent up here. And I was like, why? And he said, I'm building offices. And I said, that'll never work. People work downtown. They sleep in the suburbs. They take the train into Center City. Take the train. They sleep in the suburbs. You work downtown. He said, rule, regulation, zone, like, why? And I said, that's just the way it's always been. And he put out a cigarette and he said, Kevin, never do things the way they've always been. I make it sound like we were 2 peers having a conversation. Bill Rouse was the man. I was just listening along. But it really implanted on me. I then hopped on my tractor back and forth day after day after day. I fell off the tractor, on the tractor ran over me.
Wow.
Ended up in the hospital on a ventilator. Priest gave me last rites.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
It was should have been a traumatic experience, and I know it was traumatic on my family.
For sure.
Yeah.
For me, it was, hospital's a pretty cool place because I was a very self-centered 18-year-old, 19-year-old at that point, who only thought about himself. And all of a sudden, the nurses, the food service worker, like, everybody just wanted me to get better. And I'm like, this is remarkable, like, really remarkable. I also tell everybody I was in the hospital for, my length of stay was 3 popes. Paul VI, John Paul I, and then John Paul II. So I was in there for quite a long time, but I also grew up in there. They were giving me 100 milligrams of Demerol, and it wasn't long before I couldn't wait for 4 hours to go by, so I get another 100 milligrams of Demerol. And a nurse came in at night, never turned the light on, just her voice. You're getting addicted. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm in pain. And she said, no, you waited for 4 hours and then you hit your buzzer. And she said, give me 30 minutes. If you're still in pain, I'll come back in. I watched that clock, 30 minutes, man, I hit that buzzer. She came back in and she said, I'm telling you, you're getting addicted. Give me another. This went on all night. And by daylight, I wasn't taking it anymore. She never put the light. It was just the calmness of her voice. So I walked out of there saying, I want to work in a hospital. We've already established I wasn't a very good student, so I couldn't be a doctor like you guys. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I loved that environment. And then the third thing that happened to me that put me here is November 10th, 1979, I went back to Millersville to see my friends who got me in trouble the first time. So naturally ended up in a bar. I walked into the bar and I saw the most beautiful person in the world. and we've been together ever since. And Pam that was 47 years ago. Pam taught me how to study. She taught me, she is, I'm Irish and get upset. She's very calm.
Like me and my wife.
I come running home and I'm like, hey, workers. And she's like, stand in their shoes. And she's the yin to my yang, and I love her to death, but she is truly responsible for how I ended up where I am.
Mm-hmm. As people say, you're better half.
Better 80%.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what you just talked about for the past several minutes is exactly why I love this podcast, is because we go to the same places over and over and hear the same stories, but we don't get to hear something that really just sent like shivers down my spine, just hearing your story. And this truly speaks towards your leadership qualities that we so deeply inspire us so deeply. Particularly how humble you are to even be able to share a story like that in a leadership position that you're in. I'm sure that must have been because people probably struggle with sharing stories like that when you're in a role as a CEO.
No, I think you're right, but I don't know if it's just being a CEO. People tend to want to put forward what they think people want to say.
Yeah.
So would I rather say I got a Harvard MBA and I was a CEO when I was 23? Be a better, but it's not a real story.
Mm-hmm.
The real story is the struggles that I went through.
Yeah.
And I think if everybody just put their guard down a little bit,
Yeah,
and really express how they feel and what's going on, and not, I have to role model a physician or I have to role model a CEO, or, I mean, I do. I want the 52,000 employees to have confidence in me,
mm-hmm.
to believe that we're headed in the right direction, that I actually know what I'm doing so I don't have to worry about their job. But I don't want them to salute me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about the Eagles Cowboys with the guys and be
Well,
able
not the most recent.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that one.
but also, talk to physicians about what's on your mind. How could I help you?
Mm-hmm.
And, you mentioned CAR-T and some other things. A lot of that I was involved with because I just walked up to a physician and said, how can I help you? Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, they're giving me ideas. I followed up on those ideas and then they gave me more. And, one thing leads to another. But it starts with that, how can I help you?
Yeah. And what a better quality to have, as someone leading, a health system where our whole goal is to, how can we help patients? How can we help you? You can let your guard down. This is our most vulnerable moments. That's exactly what you're looking for when you're trying to lead. What are some other great leadership qualities or other great leaders that you've maybe tried to model yourself after?
Yeah, no, well, some are specific to our industry. A lot of people stop by and, give me career advice. And I run through some things pretty quickly. Pick your organization first and your job second. People will come in and say, I want to be a CEO. And I said, you can be one tomorrow. It's going to be Searchlight, Nevada, and it's a 10-bed hospital in the middle of the desert. But no, I meant I want to be the CEO of Penn Medicine. That's a different thing. So I don't think people should pursue titles, but pursue organizations that'll have impact. Mm-hmm. And that's why, I'm so blessed to be at Penn Medicine.
And then from there, go on whatever path you were meant to be on.
You can go on whatever path you're meant to be on, but also whatever path you choose to take.
Mm-hmm.
And
which might not be CEO.
Might not be CEO, but it might be impactful. Would you rather be Carl June or Drew Weissman or Kevin Mahoney?
Yeah.
Man, I'd rather be those. Would you, a nurse at bedside over in 6 Spruce in our behavioral health unit that could change somebody's life, just like that nurse changed my life in my story? I mean, that's impact. And people, I think, undervalue the impact you're having versus your title and your salary.
Yeah.
And I'd like people to assess a little bit more impact on your kids, impact on your neighbors, impact on patients. Pick your organization first, your job second. Impact, know what you want to be measured by. Mm-hmm. And for me, again, it was impact. And The third is to be kind and work harder than anybody around. I mean,
Yeah.
people look at my salary and they say, man, you get paid a lot of money. I work really hard.
Yeah.
And I try to tell my team, you don't have to answer my 3 a.m. emails. I don't expect everyone to work the same way I do, but I have an urgency, an impatience behind what we're doing that we got to pick it up.
Yeah.
And I try to impart that urgency, not craziness, but urgency on the
Yeah.
on the workforce. Yeah.
I want to back step for a moment because I was so interested by your story. So you were in the hospital, you left, you met your wife, but then what truly guided you on this path? Like what really took you down at some point, I want to be a leader in medicine path?
I think that's a great question. I think it came more naturally than that. So again, I'll take you through.
So it wasn't something you aspired. You're like, at one point, I'm going to be the CEO.
No. It was something that I realized I could become, but it wasn't. It was never on the path. But I'll take you to my first day at Episcopal Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So I get off the L at Somerset, which was the open air drug market. And at the time, this would have been 1983. It was, a neighborhood that was struggling, but you could still get on and off. And so I hopped off the L. I went in the door closest to the L station, which was the basement door in the back of the hospital. I had on my khaki pants, my blue jacket, my striped tie. Like I thought I was ready to look like a boss. And I walked in and immediately the workers, what are you doing down here? Who are you? I said, I'm Kevin Mahoney. It's my first day at work. Yeah, but why are you down here? I said, well, it's my first day at work. I'm headed up to administration. And they're like, no, administration, they park their cars out front and they go in that door. Like, why'd you? Well, because I took the L. Administration, why are you down here? I said, what's wrong with you guys? We're going on strike. And I said, so you assume I'm a spy? Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, why else would somebody we haven't seen an administrator down here in a decade. Like, why would you be here if you weren't a spy? Interesting conversation, a little unsettling. But man, they communicated to me they were going on strike. I then went to my first meeting that day, which was the strike task force. And the vice president running it, Ken, I won't give you his last name, but Ken told everybody, what are you doing July 4th weekend? Well, what about the strike? They're not going on strike. Who are you? I'm Kevin Mahoney. Why does everybody keep asking me my name? And he said, what's on your mind? I said, they're going on strike. He said, no, they're not. I think they are. He said, I've been here 20 years. You've been here 2 hours. I think I'm right. On June 30th, I kissed Pam goodbye, took the L back down to Episcopal, went in there because I knew at midnight when they shut it down, somebody was going to have to wash the dishes and stuff like that. And at midnight, they shut it down. The sun came up the next morning. All the administrators were on the other side of the fence, and I was on the inside of the fence. And to the point about leadership, all of a sudden I realized I could do what that guy was doing. I could be a vice president because he was just up there talking. And, by being present, walking around, listening, understanding, it was just, it taught me a lot. Mm-hmm. It also, though, unleashed what I try to tell people is probably the most important trait for a leader, which is intellectual curiosity. Mm-hmm. And so the head of personnel quit over this contract. They said, you want to run personnel? I'm like, this isn't too hard. I walked in the risk manager. Now I'm the head of personnel, and I had to go down and negotiate with the 1199C union. And Henry Nicholas, who was the leader, like he taught me, this is why I do, this is what I need, back and forth. And it was learning by a masterclass, not by a book.
Yeah.
Like to learn at 24 how union negotiations go from the head of 1199C, a national union, was just, irreplaceable opportunity. But I grabbed that opportunity. And I probably kept him there longer than he expected because I would just quiz him and try to gather up that information. So I don't think it was aspiring to be a leader. It was aspiring to know and learn as much as I could so that I could help make the right decisions.
Yeah, and it's, there's so much talk, especially, when we've interviewed some prior leaderships at other hospitals, so much talk about who should be fitting that role. Should it be a surgeon? Should it be medicine? Should it be outside of medicine? But I think we're all losing focus in some of the most important things that you mentioned. You have to have somebody that can walk around and hear what's needed in the hospital. And maybe we're losing focus of maybe you don't need the Harvard MBA. Maybe you don't need to be a surgeon. Maybe you don't need to be medicine. And you just need somebody who's grounded and can talk to people and things like that.
In addition to that, I do think the future leaders of healthcare will be physicians.
Why is that?
Let's go through, what do I have to do? I need to understand the ecosystem. Well, who knows the ecosystem better than a physician or advanced nurse like Regina Cunningham, the CEO of HUP? Like, we're in the clinical business. So it makes sense that a clinician would run a clinical business. A clinician runs Penn Medicine. My boss, John Epstein, is a physician. Before that, Larry Jameson. Before that, Arthur Rubenstein, Bill Kelly. So Penn Medicine's always been led by a physician. I think further, though, we'll have more physicians in leadership positions moving forward. I hope that they'll adopt some of the practices that I just talked about. But if you don't understand the ecosystem, including how we get paid, you can't run the place, because how we get paid is sometimes counterintuitive to American business. But that walking around, I mentioned Carl June. I met Carl, and the first thing I said to him is like, how do you spend your day? Well, I go to my wet lab in BRB, and then I go to my animal mouse hospitals up at Presby, and then I come back here to see how the patients are doing. And I'm like, this is before cell phones. I'm like, dude, that's a lot of steps and a lot of unproductive time. And Carl probably ran those steps. But it got me thinking about the building that we put up, the research building, where the wet lab's here, the mouse hospital's here, and the patient's being treated on one elevator.
I see.
So rather than I have to go, accidentally bumping into somebody in the elevator saying, I just saw this on this patient scan. What do you think? And that face-to-face inquisitiveness, I think that's the main job of a CEO.
Yeah. You've talked a lot about the main job of CEO, good leadership qualities. In your role, what do you think has been the greatest challenge, or the thing that you're like, I wasn't prepared for this?
Well, I mean, I think that probably comes up almost, I wasn't expecting this, comes up all the time. I think the greatest challenge has been interpreting the tea leaves from Washington, whether it's Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Donald, it's not Republican, Democrat, but we're driven.
That's very true.
By the policies that they make, and trying to understand what they are, what the impact will be, and House Resolution 1, which changed Medicaid and so much. I can figure out the math problem of that. So at Penn, we're going to get paid $383 million less over the next 10 years. I can figure it out. What I can figure out is, how do I get that poor person in West Philadelphia who had Medicaid, but is now kicked off the rolls? And they're kicked off the rolls because work requirements, you gotta re-register every 6 months. Those are the unexpected challenges. That, I could certainly go through more, but
you need to have like an adaptability and take whatever comes your way and be creative enough to be able to come up with solutions for these problems.
That
are so convoluted.
And also, though, to face it head on. Right. So in the late 90s, we were burning through cash faster than the U.S. Mint could print it, and we were going bankrupt. And I talk about the 3-room solution. In room 1, the university was thinking of selling the health system. In room 2, there was a consulting group in the Hunter group saying, give us a management contract because the idiots running the place can't do it. In room 3 were the idiots who were running the place. And we said, if we don't stick together and figure this out, they're going to pick room 1 or 2 and we won't be here.
Yeah.
And we figured it out. But it was convoluted. It was a problem. But we faced it with bravado, confidence, agility.
That's a scary
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and obviously one of the other challenges that comes to everybody's mind is COVID-19 and navigating that. Tell me about those dark times and how we were able to pull ourselves through that and come out on the other side.
Yeah, I think it's a layered response I want to give you.
Yeah.
So how we got through it was together. How we also got through it, I think, was by listening. And lastly, we got through it by science. And we shouldn't forget that last one. So I remember I was with Dr. Jameson.
Mm-hmm.
He was the dean. Have you heard about this virus in China? Yeah, it seems to be sweeping through. And we opened a building at Chester County Hospital on March the 6th. That was the last time for months we would all be together. And we were cutting that ribbon, and there were a couple name tags missing. And they were missing because those people had COVID. If they had been there, we might have been the super spreader event,
Yeah.
that happened. But we were methodical in how we went through it. We were on the phone at 7 and 4 every day with the whole team, 7 days a week. Hearing from Governor Wolf, hearing from the physicians. You remember Bend the Curve?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Flatten
the curve. Yeah.
I got on video, a town hall, and I told everybody, we're going to bend the curve. Stay 6 feet apart. Wear your mask, and we'll get through this together. I left my office. I was walking across the bridge over to Old Hop, and one of my employees stopped me. And they said, I just heard you say my kids are going to die. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, maybe where you live, staying 6 feet apart is possible. In my house, I have 4 kids in one bedroom.
Yeah.
Like we can't say. All of a sudden it was, man, I better be careful what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because people are listening to every word that I'm putting out, right? They wanted so much to believe that there was someone looking out for the future. So we did that. The science part, we're very proud of Dr. Weissman and Dr. Carrico.
Unbelievable.
The Nobel Prize. Incredible.
But,
in such rapid turnaround.
It shows you when America says we're going to do something and we're together, we can get it done.
Yeah.
John Kennedy, we're going to the moon by the end of the century. President Trump, Operation Warp Speed, we're going to get this. And we did, because we eliminated so many of the
red tape.
The red tape, but also the arguments back and forth about who's getting credit, not getting credit. And Alex Skorsky, who was the president of J&J, he'd be calling me, what's it like? What can I help you with? And, he was in competition with BioNTech and Moderna for Operation Warp Speed, but he parked that. Like, he wanted to win. At the same time, he wanted to find out were there things going on that he could help with. We learned a lot. We relearned a lot about teamwork, because without that red tape, we were standing. David Ash and the team stood up COVID Watch in 9 days. And we published a paper on it that, we saved a lot of lives with COVID Watch. And it was an app. The worst thing to do if you thought you were sick or not is to go to the emergency room. Because if you weren't sick, you were going to get sick sitting in that emergency room.
Yeah.
Going to the emergency room probably meant you were going to end up, pulse ox, get, admitted. And that's not necessarily what you needed. So we were able to use remote patient monitoring to keep people out of the hospital, to follow them. if they got sick, they got expedited in. But they built that, I think, in, like I said, 9 days. Today, though, it might take me 9 years.
Yeah.
The other thing that was great, every Friday at noon, Jefferson, Temple, Children's Hospital, Einstein, we were all on the phone together. What do you need? Einstein, we're out of gowns. All right, we'll send you gowns, but you got to promise you're going to replenish it because, but it wasn't, people weren't hoarding. We were sharing.
Yeah.
We were trying to survive. Today, that doesn't happen. Like, we compete, but for one brief shining moment, there was no competition.
That's special when, it shows just humanity. When something that, significant boosts up, we kind of all put all the other stuff aside and try to solve what truly matters. And that brings me also just to Penn Medicine's legacy. Just thinking about how special it is being where we are now. But what are some of the things that you find special about Penn Medicine, and what makes us different, and what's part of our DNA here that separates us?
I think what separates us is our dedication to science. And we have a huge health system, 8 million outpatient visits, 135,000 inpatient admissions, almost 12 billion of revenue every year. It is a remarkably large place. We're taking care of a patient today. We're also using what we learned from that patient to take care of a patient in the future. And our legacy will be where we started. Knowledge gets created at Penn and quickly disseminated. Not we're going to hold on to it. If you're into Carl June, he's very proud of having the first FDA approval for gene therapy. He's more proud that 50,000 people worldwide have received his treatment. Like, he keeps track of how many, and that shows the Penn legacy. There's some child cured of acute leukemia, we'll say in Texas. They don't know Penn. We don't have a big football team. They don't know Dr. June or Dr. Carico, but they're alive because of Penn. And I think that'll be our long-term legacy. But we're able to do that because the health system funds a lot of the research. Yeah. So when the NIH won't fund, because Carl had a crazy idea, and the answer was, do you have any clinical data? It's kind of hard to get clinical data if you won't give me a grant. So, we were able to help those early studies together with philanthropy, and then, the rest took off.
And I guess along the same lines, one thing that I'm always curious about is, especially during COVID, but even beyond that, is how Penn is well financially and profitable, and especially during COVID, where I'm hearing about hospitals closing and just being in the red, where Penn was able to maintain itself. And recently, I think they just reported what the profits were for the first quarter of the year. What do you think helps it be so financially strong?
So people call us and ask that question. So since the late 90s, we've never lost money, including during COVID. There were a lot of federal dollars coming in, but we made money from operations. And it is just a fiscal discipline that you have to have. And a lot of people call, can I, come tell me your secret. The secret is our revenues are higher than our expenses. Like that, there's no other way than hard work. But I think it's dependent upon trust more than anything. And what I mean by that, COVID hit, people were worried about their jobs. Hotels were closed and a lot of people were out of work. And we made a promise no one will lose their job at Penn Medicine because of COVID. And we paid a lot of people to stay home. They didn't have to use their PTO, they got paid. And I think that, when it passed, they came back re-energized because we took care of them and vice versa. We have a great funds flow system. So our goal is to get as much money over the threshold, and then we disperse it. Other systems, the practice plan wants to get the most money because they don't want to share with the hospital. The hospital wants to get the money because they don't want to share with the practice plan. Philanthropy comes in. People want to, donate to science, but they want their name on one of our buildings, we put the name on the building because we're integrated. We're one. So I think being mission driven and understanding that we're working for a higher purpose, which is cures, not just getting bigger.
Yeah.
I think that is number one reason why we've been profitable is mission. Number two is fiscal discipline runs through us like no tomorrow. And it's probably a result of the late 90s. And then third is it's a very collaborative organization. And people will stop me and give me ideas, and I'm able to bounce ideas off people. And it's never, there are no dumb ideas. There are dumb solutions, but we're often, we talk each other out of those solutions. I think the very last thing I'd say on it, it is a highly matrixed organization where, we're probably the only $12 billion organization that doesn't publish an organizational chart. And, it is, but if you work the matrix, what comes out the other side is almost always guaranteed to be a winner. Because so you can get frustrated. Like, why do I have to go talk to that person? Why do I have to talk to that person? If you do all those steps, you'll probably have a better solution than if you don't have to work that hard to get things out.
Yeah. I think this is sort of going off script, but I'm so curious about it. I'm sure you'd be curious about it too, is thinking about all of the residents, medical students go through a crazy amount of debt.
Yes.
Unbelievable amount of debt. And then you become a resident and your pay is not the same as your buddies who went into finance and investment banking for another 4 or 5 years. And then you do a fellowship, you're still underpaid. And so then there's this move like NYU, for instance, to do tuition free for medical school. I know Hopkins has made their medical school tuition free if you make a certain income with your families. Do you ever see the future of medicine potentially offering that, for instance, at Penn Medicine for future medical students,
Sure.
et cetera?
Well, currently, it's about 60% of our class is tuition free. So it's not across the board, but
yeah. And through what means?
Philanthropy. Mr. Gamble, who just passed the Gamble Scholars, he endowed that. Mr. Perlman, we have the Perlman Scholars. Yes. He endowed that, but it's means tested. But it's about 60%. I think more important is, and it's in our strategic plan, is to shrink the length of time to become a physician.
Yes.
And I think there are a lot of tools that we're going to be able to use to do that. Dr. Jameson said, when I graduated, he's an endocrinologist. He said, I wanted to know everything there was to know about endocrinology. And if you ever met Dr. Jameson, I think he probably did. And that carried him forward. He was a subject matter expert. He said, with AI, with all the resources, maybe not be the subject matter expert as much as I know how to get data that you can trust. Not just
too much data now.
But, be able to sift through that and move forward. So does that take 4 years? So, and Dr. Epstein and Dr. Jen Kogan are working on that. As, I don't want anyone to listen and think Penn's shortening it, but the discussion's underway. Same thing on training, particularly surgical training, which is you got to watch some, then you hold a retractor for some, and then you open, and then you move along. Dan Hashimoto, one of our surgeons, his tagline is Dr. Laparoscope on LinkedIn, but he's working on how do I teach a robot in virtual reality as opposed to on a person, and could we shrink 7 years of cardiac surgery to 5? Could you shrink?
Makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference in the cost. Makes a big difference in your earning potential. You brought it up. It's 100% correct. But people will say, a neurosurgeon makes, $1.7 million. That's a pretty good living. Yeah, but from 22
correct
to 38, they didn't. Whereas if you were in fintech, you were making money that whole time.
Correct.
So we think a big thing is to compress,
Mhm.
not to not to make it so fast that we don't produce great physicians, but to be more efficient in education. That'll lower the cost.
And like in Europe, we had this discussion this morning where you're combining undergrad with medical school and accelerating that path. And it's funny, you mentioned this as well, but a lot of my friends in undergrad went into, are now a hedge fund and private equity, already talking about retirement. I'm just starting my job, And I trained in general surgery, which was 7 years, to then become a plastic surgeon. Did I really need all those 7 years? But just an interesting topic. The other thing that I want to talk about is something near and dear to my heart. I'm from Virginia, but I've absolutely grown to love Philadelphia. It's a city, just like this medical library, this hospital itself. It's such a unique city with such a tremendous history and legacy. How do you think that that's kind of shaped Penn to where it is today? But also, like, now Penn is expanding. You're building a cancer center in Princeton. And so what's the future of Penn that initiated in Philadelphia?
So I mean, Penn and Philadelphia, the stories are linked. If you go down to 4th Street, you'll find a plaque.
Yes.
Here was Pennsylvania Academy, which was the University of Pennsylvania. I love history, and one of the things that you read about is you can't do higher education in an urban setting. So we're going to move all the way on the other side of the Schuylkill River because this city will never get there. And
it's come.
but then in the late 1800s, a gentleman by Henry Erdman, there was a move to move Penn to Valley Forge, and the university owned a huge amount of property out there. And Mr. Erdman gave money to put up a building on the Valley Forge campus of the University of Pennsylvania. We used that money to build Penn Medicine at Valley Forge. So the history of Philadelphia and Penn is just completely linked and always will be. The part of the Philadelphia culture that I think is ingrained in Penn is gritty. My father-in-law came in to get his cancer treated. And I remember the fellow saying, he said, "I'm going to die, right?" And the fellow said, "We're stubborn. We're not letting you go yet." And it just, that willingness to, the hours that the scientists put in to come up with cures, and they get data. Other people will be like, "This is never going to work." They readjust and move forward. So I think that grit that makes Philadelphia Philadelphia is a key ingredient for Penn Medicine. So as we go to Princeton in the Cancer Center, it's not we're coming up, we know everything. We're coming up, we're going to outwork anybody in Mercer County. And we're not going to give up. We're going to bring the latest treatments and bring that teamwork of, if we all pull together, we can improve this patient's life.
I hope that. And what do you think about like international presence? Do you see that that's going to be expanding as well?
Yeah, it's a tough question. Dr. Glenn Galton has done a wonderful job expanding our educational footprint. So medical school in Vietnam, that we now a medical school in Dubai. I think it fits with create the knowledge and disseminate it. On the healthcare side, it's a little trickier. So a lot of places have either built hospitals overseas. I'm not sure that's our mission.
Yeah.
A lot of places have spent a lot of time trying to attract international patients to your hospital because they pay cash.
Yeah.
As a nonprofit, should I have a bed for somebody from a foreign country while a patient in West Philly can't get into the emergency room because it's so? I think there's a balance. To date, we have stuck with our mission is in West Philadelphia, Lancaster, Princeton, the 27 counties that we take care of, and any patient that wants to come. But on the international side, I think we're going to stick to what we're doing best right now.
Yeah. Sir Letty's very proud of a slide that he always shares for all the incoming trainees and residents, where he shows where Penn plastic surgery kind of started. And now he puts like a Penn shield everywhere that it's expanded to, which is very impressive.
But Dr. Cerletti has also done that a lot himself.
Yeah.
You know, way before Lancaster became part, Dr. Cerletti was staying in a Holiday Inn.
Yes.
And he'd see patients, he'd sleep in the Holiday Inn, see patients the next day. And
It's the grit.
it is the grit.
Yeah.
You know, if you were the head of plastic surgery at Penn,
You wouldn't think that.
you wouldn't think that. You think, you know, the guy does, you know, reconstructive and cosmetic surgery and probably doesn't, you know, he's got an easy life. Not, he's moving to all
But
those.
it comes down to like what we talked about earlier. The best leaders are on the ground putting in just as much work, if not more work, than all the people they're representing. That's what the best leaders do. They don't stay up and they're hide,
And
you know.
Dr. Cerletti, I'm using Joe, but so many of our physicians are just fearless, right? They learned a technique when they were 37.
Mhm.
New technique comes out at 45. I'll relearn because I want to stay better. And that fearlessness, I think, is also a hallmark of Penn. You think of other careers, you know, you want to learn it and just do the same thing each day.
Yeah.
And that's not available to a Penn doctor.
Well, you know, one thing that he always says is he actually, which is, it goes back to your point, he actually trained in craniofacial surgery. So when he was initially doing microsurgery, which is a completely different subdiscipline, he was teaching himself. And then people would tell him, don't do it this way. You should do it the way that everybody else does it and the way that the textbooks write it. And he was like, why not do it this way? He's like, this way will work too. In fact, a lot of the ways that he has done it is better than the ways. So just like you were talking about, like people telling you, you know, and just forging your own path, et cetera. So.
Yeah, no, what Joe Cerletti said is what Bill Rouse said.
Exactly.
Bill Rouse was a real estate developer, physician, but that fearlessness of, I can figure this out, the curiosity to not stick in the safe lane, but to expand, I think is really important.
I want to talk about, we've hit this a few times already, but the Nobel Prize and everything that's surrounding that in such a desperate time. What we talked about, the grit, the hard work. What do you think actually made that happen at Penn Medicine?
It happened many years before.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talk a lot about the famous copy machine,
Yeah.
you know, where Dr. Carrico and
Yes.
Dr. Weissman ran into each other. I actually think one of the heroes is Harvey Friedman, who was the chief of infectious disease.
Yep.
And brought in an immunologist into his division. And an immunologist who had such crazy ideas.
Collaboration.
But he couldn't get grants. But Harvey said there's something there, and he kept growing and nurturing. And Dr. Weissman had this idea. Man, he met
Were
Dr.
you being
Carrico.
kept in the loop during this time? Were
No,
you?
I mean, later on, people would mention messenger RNA to me, but nobody was in the loop. Like early on, I'm talking way before COVID,
Yeah.
you know, but messenger RNA, it really wasn't, I don't know how to say it. Like everybody kind of knew about it, but,
Yeah.
and occasionally somebody said, well, Moderna is really interested
Yes.
in it, and well, we can make some royalties. Nobody really knew
Yeah.
what a messenger RNA platform would do.
Yeah.
Drew and Katie did, and it turned out to be, you know, save the world, put the pandemic in, it stopped in its tracks. Again, we're talking about qualities of leadership. Dr. Weissman won the Breakthrough Prize, and we had a little ceremony of all of our Breakthrough Prize winners: Dr. Weissman, Dr. June, Dr. Virginia Lee, and you know they were being asked questions. What are you going to be doing 5 years from now? I think most people in the audience thought, well, I'll be retired.
Yeah. I just won the Nobel Prize.
I just won a Nobel Prize. I'm going to Disney World or something.
Yeah.
And Dr. Weissman says, I think I'll be walking through sub-Sahara Africa with an igloo cooler full of one-shot vaccines for sickle cell disease.
He's already on to the next thing.
Already on. And not a tweak of what he's doing, but like completely bold. And you brought up humility a couple times. You wouldn't expect a Nobel Prize winner to say, I'm going to be walking through Africa with an igloo cooler.
Yeah.
But
He's in it for the right reason, you know?
But it also, and I know we're almost out of time. I think another big part of Penn is we have a sacred obligation for health equity and accessibility.
Yes.
So Dr. June,
Yes.
first FDA approval. At the time, it was $479,000 a dose. I remember Zeke Emanuel wrote an editorial, "Can we afford the cure?" Well, now scientists are working on in vivo solutions, and how can we make how can we take $10 off the manufacturing process so that everybody in America can get that drug, not just rich people.
Yeah.
And I think that's another part of our obligation.
Yeah. The CAR T therapy story that we talked about, to be able to receive the treatment that you create is just incredible. What was kind of, do you think that that's along the same lines as what we talked about when it came to like the messenger RNA, just continuing to work at something with the support of your...
I think it's continuing to work at it, but it's also follow the science.
Yeah.
So Dr. June and David Porter, Mike Kalos, Bruce Levine, they were the inventors of the CD19
Yes.
treatment. And they had a 10-person trial. They ran out of money on the first 3 because it was much more expensive than we thought. So it had enough money for 10, only do 3. What are we going to do now? They're having lunch down in Giaprano, right in the Perlman Center, and they said, let's publish, right? Should we go try to get philanthropy? Should we ask the NIH for more money? Maybe we should go ask the health system for money. It was, we'll publish. And that set off the race. It was like, the starter gun went off and everybody wanted to buy it. We put so much emphasis on those first 3 patients who were chronic leukemia, CLL. That's where we wanted all the research money to go. So we signed with Novartis. It didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Carl then took a lot of the research money and reached across the street to Dr. Stephen Grupp at CHOP and said, pediatric ALL. It was the first time I'm not a scientist, but old T cells versus young T cells. And, maybe pediatric leukemia is something that we could have better success. But who would take money that was Novartis gave to Dr. June, and Dr. June said, I'm going to share some with Dr. Grupp because I want to collaborate. And that doesn't happen in many industries. And Stephen has become just a world-renowned expert in pediatric ALL and has come up with many, many inventions. But I worked so hard to get all that money for Penn. And when Carl walked in, I'm going to give some of it away. I'm like, but he knew it was the right thing.
Yes. And that's the thing, is like trusting your people, to do the right thing. And just having that trust in them that they know what they're doing is the right thing, But I think back to what we just talked about, CAR T, Nobel Prize, messenger RNA, everything else that's happening at Penn Medicine, where Penn's expanding to. A lot of it has happened under your leadership. And what do you hope to be remembered for in 50 years from now?
Hopefully, he was a good husband and a good father. Yeah. Behind that was he cared and he made a difference.
Mm. Yeah. I think from everyone that we've talked to before on these podcasts, it sounds like a lot of it starts at home, and if you have that foundation, a good support from your wife who allows you to answer emails at 3 a.m. Is she in healthcare at all, or?
Pam was a special ed teacher. She worked at the Overbrook School for the Blind, and then, but helped raise our kids. And now she should get a paycheck from Penn because she's down here all the time. Yeah, and
that's true.
She's very, very supportive of me, but also knows almost as many people at Penn as I do, and they'll tell her, Kevin was off his game today, or could you, put this in, and just very helpful. But I think whether you're a parent or a CEO, it's pretty much the same job description, and a lot of lessons from parenting apply to running a large organization. So I think that might be why some things end up at home. But
You seem like you would share this with the audience, and I love asking people this, but what's your kind of day-to-day like? Like how
Your
much
routine.
sleep do you need? Do you do anything outside of work?
currently, or
Currently.
yeah, so no, we're I am working. I mean, the one thing, our grandkids, love going down and seeing them, and
Where are they?
two in Nashville and one just left for Oregon. So I have asked myself, why do my kids move far away from me?
You have to make time for your grandkids, though.
Oh no, for sure, for sure. But there's a lot going on right now. I will tell you a lesson I learned though, pre-COVID. The world's been different post-COVID for sure, but pre-COVID was, if I stared at a problem, I couldn't solve it. So I would be coaching my kids' little league team, standing out there at third base, while the kid struck out for the fourth time in a row, and they're like, "Oh man, that's how I'm going to solve that problem."
Yeah.
All right. I was on the local school board for 10 years, and be sitting there, and you got to reduce taxes. You got to fire the football coach, and everyone's screaming at you. And I'd be thinking about, like, if I stared at the problem, I couldn't solve it.
Yeah.
When you're distracted, all of a sudden you say, "Oh man, that's what I should do.
Yeah.
That's a way to solve it." So the period right now, I'd be lying if I didn't say my days are 5 a.m. Usually home, I don't know,
Wow.
8 to 9, somewhere around there, because there's almost always an evening event. And then I'll fall asleep, and then I'll be up from 2 to 3:30.
Yeah.
Um,
You must love what you do.
I do. But I also love my country, and I think some of us have to step up and show there's a way forward, and I think Penn Medicine needs to be part of that solution.
Yeah.
We have a big initiative we're going to announce shortly on opioid use.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just Nobel Prize work.
Yeah, of course.
It's the things that
Great.
impact.
Philadelphia. It takes you back to
Yeah.
Philadelphia. What's important?
Yeah. Well, I know we have a few more questions that we still want to ask you, but
Yeah,
thank
I want to
you.
ask you one
Yeah.
more specifically.
Yeah.
So I'm getting my MPH through Penn, and yesterday I was kind of surprised because one of my professors, for the first time, everyone kind of across the board when you're talking about graduate studies, sort of says, don't use artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
Don't use it. You see all these news stories about, kids should not use it in college. For the first time, my professor yesterday said, for this assignment, I want you to use ChatGPT. And he embraced it. And he said, next year, I'm going to look to using more AI in our classes. And it's one of those things that I think to myself, it's like a technology that's coming, and eventually we're going to have to embrace it, and it could be very helpful. Where do you see AI kind of in the future of medicine and Penn Medicine?
AI is coming incredibly fast.
Mhm.
It's going to change the way we do work. There are going to be two groups, those who embraced it and those who didn't.
Yeah.
And you better be in the group that embraces it. I think AI in the classroom is very similar. I'm so much older than you guys. When growing up, could you use a calculator?
Correct.
In math class, or should you have to be able to repeat by rote the formulas? And I'm talking probably the highest function was a square root.
Mm-hmm.
And no, you can't use that.
Yeah.
You can, well,
No one's going to prevent you from using that in real life.
but TI 30, by the time, my nephews and nieces, like, they got more computing power in the TI 30 than I had in my Apple IIe.
Yeah.
So AI is coming. I think we need to switch. How do you use it responsibly?
Yes.
How do you use it to prevent disinformation?
Yep.
What's real and not real?
Mm-hmm.
I saw a clip the other day. It was President Kennedy standing in Dealey Plaza saying, you guys are all wrong. The shot came from over there. It looked and sounded just like him. I mean, it was incredible.
It's incredible.
And how, it's going to be critical, but it's coming. I want it to be embraced because it can make us more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It can lower the cost of healthcare. It can make it more accessible. Maybe physicians won't have to wait until they're 37 to get their first paying job. Maybe patients will be able to access Penn medicine
Yeah.
from the other side of the world
Yeah.
through AI.
Mm-hmm.
And robotic surgery. You know, the future is going to be a surgeon standing in Philadelphia. The patient can be in Florida.
Yeah.
And it's going to change. So for young people, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember my dad worked for Burroughs and mainframes and paper cards, and I brought home an Apple IIe, and he's like, "That's got no power. That's a gimmick."
Yeah.
Not so much a gimmick, but I worry we use terms like digital native and pre-internet and post-internet, and the good news of AI is it can democratize scarcity, right? So if you're in a part of the country where there aren't enough teachers, your education's not going to be well. Could AI fill in that part?
Yeah.
Rural Pennsylvania, we're always talking about we got to get more doctors to go to rural Pennsylvania, so we'll provide incentives. Well, could AI smooth out some of those valleys? And I think that's a positive. The negative, we have to make sure that the good guy's AI is better than the bad guy's AI.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the role of higher education will be, is to how do you ferret that out, and how do you make sure the right stuff's getting through?
I think one of the positive things I've noticed is health literacy and patient care communication. One thing that I'm amazed by on Epic these days, I'll get a patient question, and then AI will generate educational material to provide the patient based off of that question. And I think that, especially when it comes to health literacy, and I'm learning through the MPH studies, how many people don't understand how hard it is for them to grasp this knowledge as a patient.
Right.
But AI could hopefully perhaps expand that and allow them to better understand it through educational material, et cetera. So I think that has been an incredible positive aspect of it.
Yeah, I was on a call with one of our physicians, and my 94-year-old mother-in-law, she needs to have a procedure. And he went through, the procedure's going to be fine. I just worry about anesthesia. You're going to be breathing on your own, but you won't remember anything. We went through that 4 or 5 times. And then he said, while you're asleep, I'll do a colonoscopy as well. What do you mean I'm going to be asleep? You told me I wasn't going to be asleep. No. You said you're going to be breathing on your own, but you won't, the words he was using aren't what she was hearing.
You take it for granted when you're just speaking.
Because you were trained that, So democratizing knowledge, sharing knowledge, breaking it down. I think AI has a lot of those benefits for the downside. Physicians will be when the patient shows up, like a dengue fever, because I ran through.
Yes.
Actually, you don't. You've never left Berwyn, Pennsylvania, but you guys are going to have to deal with that as well.
And hopefully AI might replace radiologists, but hopefully they'll never replace surgeons.
AI will never replace a doctor, trust me, because the knowledge will keep growing. And Dr. Tessa Cook is in radiology. She does our radiology informatics. You'll never replace her.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll get quicker. You won't need serial CT scans for a lung nodule.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just need one, but you're still going to need a radiologist. It's way overblown when people say we're not going to need doctors.
Well, and
have to adapt.
And I think going back to one of the initial things that you said about just the human touch in that patient-physician interaction, that's irreplaceable, which also has such a dramatic impact on patients. Is just the nice patient-doctor interaction that you get that you can't get through AI, But we have some fun questions we want to end on.
Yeah.
A couple of rapid fires. Who would you say, a book or a leader that shaped you?
A book would be Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I say that because don't read it. The only one that matters is empathy. And that is one of the 7. And I think that is the hallmark of the medical profession. Mm-hmm. Don't pass judgment on your patient. Don't, but understand where they are. The other part, though, would be any history books. Winston Churchill.
Mm-hmm. He was talking about him at the beginning.
Yeah. In the reflection of time, a colonist, a racist, and the like, but he did lead a country forward in pretty tough times. So from a leadership, President Kennedy has always fascinated me, and his brother. So I've read a lot of those, but I think those are.
Yeah.
I got a book the other day from a friend, Marcus Aurelius, who's in Gladiator.
Meditations.
Meditations.
Yeah, I have that book.
Yeah,
Incredible.
Really, I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
When they gave it to me, large print format.
It's not that big of a book.
I said, "How old do you think I am?" Like it's like
well, I was gonna get
22
him.
font.
I was gonna get Saïd a copy of all pictures. So it's easier for him.
A place in Philadelphia that grounds you or that you enjoy going to from time to time. It can't be related to Penn Medicine.
The place that probably I enjoy going to the most right now is any of the restaurants around Rittenhouse Square.
Yeah,
one of
Penn
your
comes
favorite.
down and we go through. Probably Park, but
Yeah.
I love Park.
Classic.
that's also, it's comfortable.
And the new one they just opened up is pretty good too. I like it.
The part of Philly that naturally, is Old City.
Mm-hmm. It's a great spot.
Yeah.
We did the big bus tour, which is I highly recommend it to the listeners. The other thing I wanted to mention before I go into the last question is I'm happy that Penn took over that billboard right by Hupp. Did you ever drive by it and you say, we have to change this?
Not only did I drive by it every day, people would take pictures.
And
in case you haven't seen this, I've seen it.
It must be a very expensive billboard.
Not so much. You won't, of late, you will not have seen many Penn billboards.
Yeah.
They're very expensive in terms of how many you have to have for saturation. Like a single billboard's not so much. Saturation's a lot. And we've tended to think people don't buy healthcare from a billboard. So we've stayed away from it. NYU put that up. UT Southwestern runs a commercial on Sunday morning TV. No patient is going to be driving up the exit to Penn Medicine saying, "Oh, I have a schedule with my oncologist, but I'm going to turn around and go 9."
Because I saw this.
But we're in a talent war.
Yeah.
And I think they wanted all the Penn doctors to know by Vizient ranking, they're number one in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was actually the purpose of it, not patient, but talent wise. But you'll now see it's a Penn Medicine billboard.
Did you buy the rights forever?
Not for a long time. I'm not going through that again.
I know. Just like I remember when the train station was changed to Penn Medicine, that was a big deal. Renaming it to Penn Medicine.
Yeah, but first I want to tell you what I think is a funny story. But second, SEPTA needs money. 9,000 Penn employees use that every day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got our name on this station, but it wasn't to get our name on this station. It was I was trying to help out and keep them going because so many of our employees are dependent.
And, especially at a time like this. And now it's especially they could use it.
Yeah.
It's struggling.
But again, I don't think anybody said, "Oh, this is Penn Medicine Station, not University City. I should go to Penn Medicine."
Yeah.
But it was to help that. But Steve Klasko at Jefferson, who's a great friend, was one of the first people to buy a station. So Market East is now Jefferson Station.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Stephen, I'm not sure I'm following that." I said, most people from out of town who get off there are going to think it's named after Thomas Jefferson and the Declaration of Independence. You're wrong. And he said, "You overpaid for it." I did. And I said, "We got Penn Station in New York. We got Penn Station in Baltimore. I didn't pay for any of them."
Yeah. And then lastly, you've been CEO, I think, during 2 Super Bowl wins.
Do you see the causation?
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think they were going to make it to this last Super Bowl?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I hope you're right.
Well,
The past couple of games have not been.
it's one or the other. It's going to be a repeat of 2023, and they're going to lose out, or adversity shapes character, and they're going to step up and figure it out. And as a fan, I'm counting on them to step up and figure it out.
Did this city make you a fan, or were you always kind of interested in it?
No, we were nursed on Eagles, Boston Red Sox for other reasons, but Sixers, Union, Phillies, Eagles. I mean, I check the scores all the time. Watch what I could of the game last night when I wasn't falling asleep in my chair.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I hope I didn't ramble on.
No, of course
too
not. And we
much.
know how busy your day is, so it even means more that you took the time.
The story you share, like, I just never get to hear, and so I'm so happy that we have the opportunity to talk about it and have people learn from it.
And our listeners are going to just learn so much, and we're so appreciative. So we appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for hiring both of us.
Thank you for listening to The DIEP End, a plastic surgery podcast. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and leave a rating on Apple Music or Spotify. Video from the podcast is available on Instagram and YouTube at The DIEP End Podcast. Join us again soon for more conversations with luminaries and experts in the world of surgery.